welcome to the Sustainability 100 Plus platform. I am Priyanka Iyer. As the AB InBev and Network 18 Sustainability 100 Plus bandwagon continues its journey in its second edition, in our quest to highlight some of the best practices and opportunities from states across India, we have arrived in Telangana in 2022 as well. This session is particularly focused on startups that are making a dent in the state, especially in sustainability businesses. As an influential state, Telangana contributes $140 billion in GDP and a per capita GDP of $3,200 to the economy in India. Numerous ecosystem enablers for startups and entrepreneurs such as VHub, T-Works, T-Hub, Rich Emerging Technologies TSIC, and TASK have been established by the government to progress in this regard. To get a deeper look into the startup ecosystem, we have invited startups themselves that are also the social innovators from Telangana, and we deliberate on why sustainability is now the key driver for innovation. Joining us on this panel are Prem Kumar Vislavat, founder of Maru Drones, Shalini Sharma, founder of Sanshodhan and E-Waste Exchange, and Giles Barker, CEO of KisanHub.com. Thank you so much, all of you all, for joining us. Just to start off, sustainability itself has a few constraints, and it can actually, on the other hand, serve as an impetus for companies to really think out of the box, think innovatively. What really inspired all three of you to really think differently? What is the problem that you set out to solve? Shalini, if you can start, because Sanshodhan focuses on ESG impact as well. What is it that you think was that you wanted to solve first?
So it all started somewhere in 2018 when I was struggling with just disposing the electronic recyclable resources. And before that, I was studying at Oxford. I was at Columbia University, and always very much impressed with the cleanliness, the organized way the cities are in like US and Europe. So when after coming back to India, when I was looking that there are recyclable resources that need to be disposed, but there is no facility as such for where we can ensure the recycling. In 2018, along with the government of Telangana, I launched an e-waste exchange, tech-based model for businesses and citizens to channelize their electronic waste directly to the recyclers. So this model was continuing and was serving the citizens and businesses. We also realized in 2021 somewhere that recyclers are not very open for taking the recyclable resources from the citizens, and mostly the businesses are busy with their policy compliances. So in January 2022, we have also launched special wing completely focusing on ESG impact assessment and reporting. That is a B2B service. So now we are also dealing with the businesses directly B2B, and then with the society, helping them for channelizing their electronic waste for the recycling.
Right, Prem, if you can help us really with the problems that Maru Drones is solving when it comes to afforestation, agriculture, using drones in agriculture in a sustainable way. Tech is really contributing to agriculture and other world problems that we have at this point.
Thank you. So basically, we very often we listen, right? Technology solves a problem, right? But there are a lot of like problems which are around us. Like majorly, we do plantation in urban cities, like in cities, like every time. But when we see the majority, the green lung space is in the reserve forest, where people can't go, and because of wild animals and the deforestation or forest fires. You might be hearing about the California fires, or you might have heard in the Northeast, suddenly there's a forest fires happened, the forest got burnt and everything. That's where we thought when there is a deforestation is happening at a rapid scale, and when people are unable to go, where we could use these drones, use these drones wherever there's a deforest area, plant them and monitor the height, growth, and more of the species or plant count kind of the analytics. So basically, we brought the technology based the reforestation at a scale, and we launched a campaign called Hara Bahara, where we're planting 1 billion trees by 2030 using drones. The uniqueness is we get these seed balls by local community like NGOs, self-help groups, and tribals, and we identify deforest areas and use these drones for the planting there, and post that we give the analytics interface for them to understand the survival rate or the more of the plant count and species count of a thing in afforestation. When it comes to the agriculture, the we India is an agricultural dependent country, but if you say a reality is today in agriculture, due to lack of skilled labor force or aging of a farmer and the traditional practices, like there's a lot of health hazards. Like if you see in Google, if you search for cancer train, a train goes every day from Punjab to Rajasthan for treatment of cancer patient, and the train name is called a cancer train. More than 80% of people are farmers who are traveling from one Punjab to Rajasthan. This is not just story of a Punjab or Rajasthan, it's a story of every state where a farmer who is doing this agriculture is prone to these diseases like TB and cancer kind of a thing. That's where we thought, why can't we introduce these drones where it disconnects the direct access, and traditionally a farmer uses 100 liters of water. Using these drones, they're using it 8 to 10 liters. So 80% reduction of water happening. If they're doing 4 to 5 hours in 1 acre, with the drones they're doing it in 8 to 10 minutes. So there is a huge shift. And also the first time we see a farmer is using technology is going to drone, because actual reality is never a farmer used a technology till today. Today there is a pest or disease, he is using a drone. In less than 10 minutes or 15 minutes, his pest or disease has been going away. That's where he's building trust and more of. So after the green revolution, when it happened, it was happened on inputs. Now the green revolution is happening on the technology adoption and transformation using these drones and data.
Giles, if you can come in on that, because Kisan Hub focuses on farm management software. Really, where did that come to you? What was the sort of innovation that you thought would be really helpful for farming in India?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Priyanka. So I think there's been some really interesting discussions already today, and I'd like to pick up on a few of those points. So we started with the grower in mind, and I think that's fundamental to everything you need to do, because the grower is the one who is contributing to the food supply chain. And we do that through working with AB InBev. So we've been really fortunate to work with AB InBev since 2018 in India and supporting their field offices and their growers in multiple regions in India. And we do that through our software platform. So we enable the field offices, which are around 20 or so for AB InBev, to help inform the farmers about how to grow the crop most effectively. I think that's really important, because by growing a more effective crop and being more productive, it both benefits AB InBev, so they get a better, higher quality crop, which helps their processing facilities to produce a fantastic beer, but it also helps the farmers, because by guiding the farmers to kind of grow a more productive crop, the farmers at the end of the day get more returns for the inputs they put into the soil. And from a sustainability standpoint, that's really important. So we always talk about environmental sustainability, and I'll touch on that in a bit, but you also got to think about financial sustainability. Because for growers, they very much need that financial stability to then invest into more environmental sustainability. And I think that's what the relationship at KissNub and AB InBev can do together. I think collaboration in that regard, both technology companies, big processes like AB InBev, plus the work of the growers on the ground, all together you can make a difference. And both financial sustainability, but also environmental sustainability. And for us, what's really important is how we help the growers grow that crop. And we do that through a matter of providing them information about when to do certain activities. So through collecting data via the field offices and the growers, we can now start to inform the growers about how to grow an effective crop through planting, through irrigation, through pesticide and fertilizer application. And through that, then everybody benefits. And I think that's what we're trying to do at KissNub.
Giles, as you pointed out, you have come together with AB InBev. Because we are in a hyper-connected world, the problems are similar. Is collaboration the way forward to really solve these problems and figure out different ways to look at each problem, the way it is impacted, and really work on the innovation there?
I think it's essential, and I think what's been really fantastic is AB InBev have taken the lead here. So they've gone out and said, look, we know we have certain things we want to solve within our business, and we know we can't do it alone. So what they've done is they've created the 100 Plus Accelerate program that we were part of in 2018, and said, look, global startups, you're doing some fantastic things out there, and these are the problems that we're facing. Let's get together and see if we can solve them together. And they put their money where their mouth is, and they've invested and kind of cooperated with these companies and kind of took them to their market. So for us, KissNub, we were taken to the Indian region, to start kind of deploying our solution there. And we've seen real great benefits of doing so. But to be perfectly frank, and to answer your question, we couldn't have done that without collaboration. And I think that works both ways. And I think AB InBev are kind of a leader in that regard.
Right. Shalini, in such a scenario, how do you think social innovation can attain scale? Like Giles spoke about collaboration, what really can be the way forward to ensure that the efforts that are being put, the sort of innovation that is being done, can reach a certain scale and have a larger impact?
I think definitely collaboration add quite a lot to these startups, because the startups are generally very limited, having very limited resources, and they are looking for scaling up. Our startup is really for the urban habitats, and which we see that there are many other who are coming into this space. The collaboration will help, say, leveraging the resources and increasing our impact in different geographies and in a smaller time period. So that's how I think collaboration is really very important. Moreover, what we are doing into the electronic waste management space is in really near future it will be required for the automobile, for textile sector, for plastics. It's already going on. So collaboration and going hand in hand will really be very helpful for the startups to grow with the little resources and making the larger environmental and social impact.
Prem, would you like to come in here on this?
Definitely. If you see the drone space in last 1 year, a lot of tremendous changes has happened. Like if government and industry and more of research community, that all the academia, if have not come forward, I don't think the adoption would have been in the practical. If you see they've simplified the rules. Earlier, for taking permission, it's to take months and months. Now they're simplified, saying that green zone, red zone, and then you don't need to seek a permission to fly a drone. That's a government's point of view. Then, being industry, we are in agriculture space. Anything the machinery we use, like a spray use, it has to be scientific data has to create it. That's why we were banking on the academia, the agriculture universities. We are working with multiple agriculture universities in the country and predominantly in Telangana with PJT ACU, and we have created a lot of SOPs, and that SOPs led to the subsidy. Now in the country, like a person in a village, how he buys a tractor, he can buy a drone in a subsidy, like 100%, 75%, 50% subsidy kind of a thing. If that collaborativeness was not there, I don't think the whatever the progressive change which you have seen could have not been possible. Often we see the collaboration, we think of just an industry point of view, but the collaboration has to be with the industry, startups, academia, and with the government. That's where the entire economy gonna come. So with the introduction of these drones, unemployed, the ITIs, polytechnics, or engineers which were in the villages are getting employed using these drones. And if you see the economics, if they use a drone, if they charge 500 rupees per acre, also they do 20 acres per day, they're having a revenue of 2 lakh rupees per month. And if they recover all their expenses, then more than 90,000 to a lakh rupee they are earning. Sitting in their village, serving to the farmers, they're gonna earn easily a lakh of rupee by just adopting a new technology, that's the drones. That's way that could have been made it possible because of the collaboration what we had till now.
Correct. We'll come back to that point, but Giles, like Prem is talking about the collaboration. What is the sort of, in your view, the role of the public sector and state governments in really helping these social innovations to scale up?
Yeah, I think it's a really great point, and I think Prem's kind of touched on it a bit already. But it does require kind of all collaboration from all areas, and I think states and local governments can make a big part through attracting top talent, and I think that comes down from education and universities. I think it's really important that they're driving kind of the educational quality in their area, because that attracts companies like ourselves and also innovators to come and start companies in that area, and by doing that you also start to bring in investment. So it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, really. So you get the education right, the companies start coming in, and then the investment follows. And then obviously that attracts more funding and more companies, and it goes on. And I think that flywheel is really important to get right. And I think you can see states and governments which have got that right, and that has kind of tremendously helped them and their local economy. I'd also say that kind of, we've had a number of discussions with local governments in the past, and I think it's really great to see that, agriculture in particular and the farming community takes a real kind of forefront in their mind and how they can help improve. And I think working with local governments, startups and the big players like AB InBev together, you can do some fantastic things. And I think it's in everybody's interest to help the farmers to be more productive, and therefore, it's everybody's interest to kind of support that as much as possible. And I've definitely seen that happen in the states that we worked in. And I'm really excited to see what happens in the future.
Shalini, Giles has covered the part where you talk about the collaboration needed from the government when it comes to farming, agriculture. But when you're looking at a bigger issue, cities, waste management, how effective and important it is for the government to also step up to ensure that the efforts that are being put really show some impact.
Right. I think for the waste management space, it's kind of very unique space because the government has a bigger role to play. And when it comes to the waste management, society also looks to the government, not really a private company or the startup to really serving them. So what happened is that being a part of the or the partner to the state government of Telangana, that has given us quite a space to operate since February 2018. And the Telangana government was the first one a subnational government who launched the electronic waste management policy at the state level, and that was somewhere in September 2017. But many times it happens that the state governments or anybody in any government who is launching the policies should also come up with the plan for its implementation. They should bring the blueprint for its implementation. Say, for example, the government can implement this e-waste management policy or plastic waste management policy into the levels. So if you see the models for the society model, B2B waste management model, the model for the government and PSUs is entirely different. So I think blueprint for managing the waste at all these levels, one is society, one is government and PSUs, then third is B2B, is need to be really prepared and implemented, where the waste management, even I will not say waste management, I'll say it as a recyclable resource management services, should be designed in such a manner that it should be targeted towards the segment for which it is made. Secondly, you asked about the role of PSUs. I think PSUs and even large companies, they are having the budget of around 2% of their profits that they need to spend for CSR. So in CSR, they can do quite a lot into the waste management space. Say, for example, they can collaborate with the municipalities, where we are providing one waste management model that is called a sand bin. And Sandbin is we worked with some of the IT industries where they wanted to put customized, beautiful electronic waste disposal bins into their premises. And they also wanted it to be so beautiful that their employees and their employee colony should be using that. So we prepared that and set up a complete system for those companies to channelize their waste to the recyclers and then account it, that how much resource recovery they have really received or achieved. So this model is quite a hit, and it can be very useful for the government offices, PSUs, the IT companies, and even the large apartments and the colonies. One more point I would like to add is on the collaboration, where we have launched the International Alliance on Circular Economy and Sustainable Development Goals, where we are coming up with the verticals. Two verticals are already established. One is Circular Electronic Alliance, that you can also see on our website, sustainabilityexchange.com. And another is Circular Textile Alliance. That is a wing under International Alliance on Circular Economy and SDGs, where we are having 140 companies, government officials, even the political leaders who are leading it as a mentor, as a patron, and as a guide for us. So this is how we are working together with the industries, with the government, with the political mentors, and also with the companies. We are having some PSU partners also who are, and even the government organizations who want us to be on the gem to serve the government departments. So this is overall platform where we are in for actually.
Right, Shalini has pointed out, all of you all have benefited from the friendly policies of the Telangana government. But is there any room for improvement? Giles and Prem, if you all can come in for this one last question.
Definitely, there is a improvement is because the new technology is coming. There is a number. The boost has to be to the innovators and technology by giving you some financial assistance more on the R&D point of view. Because whenever there is something new comes, there is a lot of R&D goes to the at a startup levels and everything. Second is when a user, the end user is a farmer for us, right? Whenever there is any user, he's looking also for a financial assistance to adopt the technology or use the technology on a presently there are a lot of banks but they ask for the collaterals and everything that becomes a very difficult for the end user point of view. Third is a lot of policies at central level, state levels have been in place, but there have to be a reality and to be really upholding the innovators and startups who are in sustainable space and who are contributing to SDGs, because a lot of companies talk about they want to be associating with the SDGs, like a more climate change or on more of innovation partnerships. But actually, startups really have those all elements, but that bridging has to happen with the corporate CSRs who are want to associate with SDGs and the startup companies. And there is a lot of talent challenge is because a lot of corporates are happy to pay big money and do it and everything, but startups they spend a lot of time, energy, and create the talent, and suddenly the corporates are easy for them to pick up from these startup companies. Post COVID, the huge difference
Right.
we are seeing is the talent of which is in startups are moving to the big companies, and there's a continuous problem is going to happening kind of a thing. So that's the government should help us in more of a giving some incentives to the startups whenever they're trying to set up in at least in Telangana on kind of a thing. So and when we are raising funds also, the lot of investors have a lot of the challenges is because of the Hyderabad and because of the new technology. A lot of the
Yeah.
incentives are little more coming forward towards and speaking and awareness about it makes a huge difference for the startup companies like us.
Correct. Giles, anything you would like to add?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate some of the points that's been made by Prem. I think, in particular, we have an organisation in the UK as well, and we've seen some of the fantastic kind of tax and breaks incentives that they apply to startup companies around kind of R&D tax credits. So every time you do some innovative work and you spend money in terms of engineering time or resources or data feeds, the UK government will help support that through kind of R&D tax credits, which is fantastic incentive to help promote kind of productivity and entrepreneurship in particular segments. Along with that, I kind of completely agree around investment. Another thing we've seen that's worked really well in the UK is for early stage investors, they get kind of tax breaks if they invest in certain companies of a certain size. They get tax break off their annual tax bill. And I think those kind of things can really help kind of accelerate the innovation, which is already happening. You know, you can see here that there's loads of innovation around on this call, but if you can start accelerating that through helping through investment, also helping through making it more effective to kind of invest into innovation and new ideas and new concepts, and then that can really help promote these companies and then help create the local economy even better. So I think it's all working together, and the government can play a big part.
All right, so on that note, we are out of time. Thank you so much, Giles, Prem, and Shalini for joining us. Clearly, sustainability can be given an impetus through technology. Coming together, collaboration is the key, and a lot more space for improvement. Thank you. Please stay tuned. Coming up next, a panel by Network 18's Maria Shakil, drive breakthrough impact on the SDGs through new mindsets, business models, and disruptive technologies. Stay tuned.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this interesting and rather important dialogue, which is part of the Sustainability 100 Plus platform presented by AB InBev and Network 18 in a strategic partnership. We believe in fostering one ideology. The ideology is together for a better future. And what better way to discuss this than to discuss it through players, makers of India's youngest state, that is Telangana. Telangana government has always believed in coming up with innovative solutions. In fact, they have taken up initiatives such as accelerating economic growth, improving infrastructure facilities, and programs targeting social welfare and inclusive growth. Most of these initiatives are very critical for Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, as we keep talking about. Let me bring in the guests at this hour. Joining me, Sri Jayesh Ranjan is the Principal Secretary, Industries Telangana. He is in many ways the architect of this entire concept. M. Srinivas Rao is CEO T-Hub of Telangana. We also have Kamlesh Kumar Sharma, Chief Public Affairs, Communication and Sustainability Officer, Hindustan Coca-Cola Beverages. Mr. Sharma, welcome. Rajesh Khosla is President and CEO AGI Glasspack. He is also joining us. We also have Tanvi Rohadgi. She is People Director, India and Southeast Asia, AB InBev. I'm going to begin with you, Jayesh Ranjan. SDGs, as we keep talking about, it's about having a fresh perspective and innovation. And Telangana increasingly is becoming a state where innovation has taken up a new form.
Yes, Maria. First of all, thank you very much for putting together this show and inviting us to share our state's perspectives. You are absolutely correct that in the last 8 years of its existence, Telangana has been creating ripples in the world of innovation, things which people would talk about only for the Silicon Valley, etc., are now also spoken in the same breath in our country. And the reference point is of Telangana, is of Hyderabad. How we have succeeded in creating world-class institutions like the T-Hub, the V-Hub, T-Works, Task, and so on and so forth. But the whole purpose of this breadth of institutions is to create a culture of innovation. But the specific answer to what you have asked very directly is that we want innovation to be targeted to solve some of the most pressing pain points of the people. See, innovation for innovation's sake, innovation for valuation's sake, innovation for commercial benefit are also fine. It's not that I'm looking down upon them. But in our state, there is a very clear prioritization that kind of innovation, which helps the lives of the common people become better.
When we look at partnerships, here public, private and social sector, partnership and involvement of all these sectors become crucial. How important do you see that partnership here?
No, absolutely. So my colleague, the T-Hub CEO, is also in the panel, and I'm sure you'll also ask questions to him. But I can give the example of T-Hub itself. So while the government has played the fundamental role in visualizing an institution like the T-Hub, putting money where our mouth is in building the beautiful facility of T-Hub, but the entire operations of T-Hub are run in a PPP mode. And there is one other critical element of the partnership, which is the academia. So, for example, when people talk about Silicon Valley, if you go back in time and look at the early days of Silicon Valley, the real impetus came from institutions like the University of Stanford, the University of Berkeley. We have more or less emulated the same model. So ISB, Triple IT Hyderabad, Nalsar Hyderabad, these are the founding institutions of T-Hub. We also have brought in lots of corporate partners. In fact, there are more than 36 corporates who participate in innovation programs. They tell us about their pain points, their challenges, which we try to solve or co-create along with the corporates using T-Hub as a medium. And after a while, after T-Hub was well established, we have created another institution which looks at innovation which is happening at the grassroots. In fact, when we speak about the problem of the common people, we also notice, particularly in our state of Telangana, that there are lots of locally available solutions, which conventionally we tend to look down upon, saying that this is all jugaad and there is no science behind it. There could be jugaad, there could be some lack of refinement in those solutions. But if you are able to discover them, unearth them, give them a platform to refine them further and maybe commercialize them at a larger scale, wonders can happen. So we also have a program, we also have people to run those kind of programs related to grassroots and social innovation.
You are essentially talking about vocal for local, and rightly so. We have to really promote what is jugaad in India, which has become so, and it's a jugaad which ensures collective effort. Mr. Rao, talking specifically about T-Hub 2.0, did pandemic play a role in advancing or delaying these projects?
So I think I'll have to give you a nuanced answer to that. Yes, it did. So as you know, T-Hub 2.0 was launched on the 28th of June, just a little over 2 months ago. It was a little delayed. The construction of the building and the physical infrastructure got delayed a little bit. But having said that, from a engagement in terms of our programs and all of that, I think we did a lot of things during the pandemic to pivot in terms of, many of our programs earlier prior to the pandemic were largely physical in nature. So I think in terms of this whole word of digital transformation, right, which is now very much in vogue, that's something which I think T-Hub adapted to in a big way. So we are now, all our programs, even now as the pandemic, becomes more like an epidemic, we've actually now figured out how to run these programs in what we call phygital mode, a combination of physical and the virtual mediums. So to that extent, yes. And then of course we also ran a number of programs. We had a program, for example, called Rejig during the height of the pandemic, which is how do we help our community, which is our startups, our startup founders, etc., actually figure out how during the very challenging times of the pandemic, how can they sustain, how can they stay afloat, how can they tweak their business models, etc., to not just survive but also revive and thrive. So that's something which I think we very proud of.
Yes, let me take that thread of communication forward with Mr. Sharma. Mr. Sharma, Coca-Cola has been the real story in terms of innovation. For a large, truly global company such as yours, what does this permission to experiment actually mean, and also does it have a trickle-down impact to local markets or innovations?
Hi, Maria. Hello, everyone. Again, thanks Network 18 and AB InBev for putting this together. A couple of points, Maria. First is that we are amongst the top 5 FMCG companies in India, and hence by scale, we consider ourselves as an ecosystem. If we were to think ourselves as a corporate, then the scale of innovation that you spoke about won't be possible. Now, we try and leverage global wisdom, as you called out rightly, that we are a global company. But there's loads of local ideas that come through in our country, probably some of the most innovative ones. So what we try and do is we try and harness the power in 3 ways. One is we can have some ideas, and then we look at pushing those down and co-creating them with our ecosystem or building on them. That's one. Second is sometimes we just have a problem definition, and we get our local large ecosystem to come and weigh in on those problems and suggest solutions, which mostly are innovations. The third way in which we deal with this is we have a lot of knowledge garnered over a number of years, and we are experts in certain areas. So we try and share it liberally, which is actually quite contrary to the way organizations and corporates in the past would run. We would hold things together and just say, this is my copyright, this is my patent, am I going to share it? No, it's become the other way around. And a quick example in the context of what we are discussing is under the guidance of Jayesh Sir, we recently signed a memorandum of understanding with the state of Telangana, where we are sharing with industries in Telangana how to go about doing solid waste management, because we have considerable expertise in that area. How to do water stewardship and water replenishment, again, an area of strength for us. And third, how do we build skills for 10,000 people in a way that they become employable? And we are partnering with the government in that way. So it's all co-creation, it's a lot of sharing, it's a lot of learning, and that's how we are going about this business here.
I'm going to come back to you and talk more about this trickle down that we keep talking about. But Ms. Rohatgi, coming to you, AB InBev has been a true champion of incubator programs, and in many ways has also been a global accelerator. What has been some of the roadblocks or positive experiences here, in Telangana in particular, or in India in general?
Thank you so much, Maria, for that question. And firstly, hello to all the panelists, Mr. Jaisham, Mr. Rao, Mr. Kamlesh, and Mr. Rajesh. It's a great opportunity to share this platform with you. So I'll answer the question, Maria, and it's a very, very good question that you have asked. We have had a very encouraging response from the Indian startup ecosystem to our accelerator programs. Innovation is at the center of the Sustainability 100 plus awards that we recently launched here in India, and are also soon going to launch in Vietnam. And both programs are focused on driving innovation in sustainability and social entrepreneurship. Our target is to work with startups to build scalable solutions addressing industry challenges across different stages of maturity. And this is important because it enables us to also engage across the ecosystem and work on some great transformational ideas. I'm hearing the T-Hub, the local ideas that all the panelists are sharing, and that's very much what we are also espousing towards. To answer the question on roadblocks, I think two most important roadblocks that we have seen. The first one is on the lines of biggest challenge around the fact that sustainability related startups is scalability. And typically the products are available at a premium, and which makes it all the more important for these startups to understand their mid to long-term visibility on the incoming orders so that they can develop the belief and capacity to scale this operation. The second one I would say is on the different ways of working, because corporates mostly have very set processes, but with the startups, you are still in the trenches and trying to figure out the processes. But at the same time, I think despite these roadblocks, we have had very good positive experiences. And if I were to name a few, we are working with one startup, Freight Fox, which helps us develop a live carbon emissions tracking module for our logistics vertical. Similarly, we have been working with another startup, Cropin, which developed a satellite-based crop operating monitoring module. And another one, we are working with Earthhorse, wherein we are developing biodegradable plastic substitutes. So a lot happening, a lot of roadblocks, but at the same time, a lot of positivity as well.
Yes, and you have highlighted more the positive aspect, and I think that ecosystem is something that will yield the results that we are hoping for in the medium to long term. Mr. Khosla, you have been one of the largest container bottle manufacturers, and you set up a 400 crore manufacturing unit in Telangana alone. How has the experience been working with the government there?
We have been in Telangana for a long time, and this is the new organic plant we have added up. Already we have been melting and doing the glass manufacturing of 1600 tons per day. So this is a very specialized type of glass manufacturing. We call it specialty glass. It is to be used for high-end perfumery, high-end cosmetic, and pharmaceutical like vials, and some specialist requirements in the area. So this plant has been put up with a lot of innovations, with decorations and everything, and total investment has come out to be close to 400 crores. We have been very happy with Telangana. That's the reason we have been expanding so much in Telangana. The whole ecosystem works very well. The support systems by the government and by other establishment has been wonderful. And today being a hub of innovation, or today being a hub of IT, which is a synonymous word of the innovation, is there. So there is a blooming culture, or there is an innovation and creativity in the air in Telangana. And so we feel very comfortable, happy in working out here and expanding in this state.
Jayesh Ranjan, I'm coming back to you, and I want to understand from you, because all the speakers so far have spoken about a friendly ecosystem. How critical is it for the state government to generate that space and make it so friendly in terms of it becoming almost like a thriving space for startups?
Yes, Maria. So we feel that that is one of our primest responsibility. I mean, as a government, that is the biggest expectation that we have, that we should be able to create a very conducive ecosystem for the startups. And the beginning point of it, the starting point of it is to first of all understand very deeply in a bottoms up way what are the challenges that the startups have been facing all these years, what are their biggest pain points, and then design a policy and an action program which addresses these pain points. So for example, if you ever come to Hyderabad, you will be very impressed to see the tea hub building. In fact, it has now become a new icon of Hyderabad city, much the same way that people have been recognizing Charminar for the last 450 years. Now, a lot of investment has gone in creating that building, but it has been done with a very clear purpose that let startups who want to be in the heart of the happening part of Hyderabad, where all the tech companies are located, knowledge companies are located, they should also be able to find affordable real estate there. They should be curated properly, mentored properly. So all that has been happening by the government creating that facility. Another problem which the startups bring to our notice quite repeatedly is the fact that acquiring their first customer is the biggest challenge. While they may have brilliant idea, brilliant products, brilliant solutions, but because the world is so competitive that to identify the first customer becomes a problem. So Telangana government perhaps is the only government in the state, in the country so far, which has a policy that if you have a solution which is of relevance to the government, I will procure it bilaterally. So the government guarantees that we will be your first customer. And obviously, we activate this policy for areas which are very important for us. And these are obviously areas relevant to SDGs. So any startup which has a solution which is focused towards SDG, of course, I must clarify that when I say any startup, I mean only the homegrown startups who are incubating in Telangana, in Hyderabad. This facility is available to them. And again, I feel very proud to share with you that in the last 8 years, more than 50 plus startups in the state have benefited from this policy. The government has given them the first work order. We have opened the door for them. And because of that, they have now been able to really scale up and expand.
And Jayji, SDGs also brings with itself new set of skill sets and space for creating new kind of jobs in long terms, particularly because of its 17 goals. How as a country can we really rise up to it and ensure that this opportunity is within the reach?
Yeah, absolutely. So completely agree with you that when we are fostering innovation, we should also ensure that skill sets are available to match with what your aspirations are. And just as we have a T Hub or a V Hub or a T Works, we have another institution, an equally important institution for skilling in the government, which is called TASK, the Telangana Academy for Skills and Knowledge. And TASK is one agile institution which actually keeps pace with what kind of new jobs are getting created. So, for example, one of the important SDGs is bringing your carbon footprint down, and many states are doing it in different ways. One of the important ways in which states are doing so is to introduce aggressive and very implementable electric vehicles policy, EV policy. So Telangana also has a very progressive EV policy. But we also are one of the few states which has started working in tandem with the EV policy in creating enough number of skills across the range. See, certain skills are very kind of rudimentary. You don't need to be a PhD to tackle those skills. So right from very basic skills to very advanced kind of skills, there are certain skills which can work in a rural area or an in situ location. There are certain skills where a city like Hyderabad needs to be your catchment. So I completely agree with the thrust of your question that skills have to match up with what you intend to achieve through innovation. And if there is a severe skill gap, which we do notice in many sectors, then your ambitions will remain just on paper. They will not really get fulfilled.
Yes, they don't get realized if it's only on paper there. And Mr. Sharma, government as first customer. The idea is, of course, that Telangana is giving preference to those who are the homegrown startups or incubators. Is this an idea, would you say that a time for which has come, it should be implemented across several states, should really rise to the occasion and give preference and become the first buyer, the first customer?
Oh yes, absolutely, Maria. It's a big relief. I mean, let me just phrase it differently. You laid it out when you said Telangana is the youngest state in the country. It may be so, but it behaves in a very mature way. And the reason why there are a number of things that corporates like us are able to propose and carry forward in the state is because the government is very open, not just to hearing that idea, but also in a way, figuratively speaking, sometimes really also buying to that idea. So when I'm citing an example of a factory that we are going to set up in the state of Telangana. This is our second factory. There's already a big one in close to Hyderabad, place called Aminpur. The new one is coming in the new food park that's been set up. When we proposed to the government that we aim to employ 50% women on the shop floor in this new factory, they were all for it. So on one hand, we are saying one of the reasons why women do not work in factories conventionally in India is because there is a notion, it's also reality in a way, that it requires physical skill. So when we propose that we will take physical skill out of the equation, we will make it a fully digital factory, such that most things are automated and employees only have to supervise. You could well imagine how the state reacted to it. So we are setting a largest factory in Telangana with that in mind. It's a factory that we will set up with sustainability at its core, and then everything built around it. So Jayesh spoke about EV and those things. Those things are being built in right from day one in that factory. Charging points, things as small as charging points, LED-based lighting, enough sunlight to penetrate the factory. Green and renewable energy will be used. We aim to start at 50 and then scale it up to 70% of green energy. Those are ideas this government is very open to, and it goes all the way to back us up. That's a big help.
Yes. And Mr. Rao, what role have you played in driving the investments for the innovation ecosystem? In the sense that you've spoken about T-Hub 2.0, and what are the lessons that other states can replicate from Telangana?
Sure. Thank you, Maria. I think two parts, so I'll very quickly give you a simple framework we put together. So we call it the 6M framework. So it's about access to markets, access to money, access to mentors, access to talent or manpower, the motivation, mindset, and methodologies. This is what we are offering to our startup ecosystem. And from a capital standpoint, I think there are multiple things we are doing. First is we have a Telangana government-supported fund called T-Fund, where we make early-stage investments in startups. We are also part of the Startup India Seed Fund. Plus now in the new building, which is incidentally, I think Jayesh Garu mentioned it, and I'll reiterate it again, is the world's largest incubation center. We have close to, at this point of time, we have 235 startups in the building. And at full capacity, we'll have close to 700 plus startups working out of the building. So obviously capital availability is a big requirement. So what we've done is we've created something called a VC zone. So at this point of time, 8 large VCs are actually physically operating out of the building. So we are removing essentially the intent is to remove the friction, make it a lot easier for entrepreneurs to be able to reach out to these VCs, and parallelly, the VCs to get exposure to all the innovation happening in the startup ecosystem, right? So that's what we are trying to do. And the intent is over a period of time, our focus is obviously on building not just unicorns, as Jayesh Garu said, not just valuation, based, it's not just a metric valuation driven metric game, but also on creating many startups which solve problems at scale and address issues critical to around, for example, sustainability. So, for example, we have a sustainability center as part of the Atal Innovation Mission. So we have startups working around waste management, around clean energy, around mobility, and so on. And many of them are now in the process of raising their seed rounds of funding, facilitated and supported by TIA.
And Tanvi, diversity and equality, I would say it's one of the most, both of these are very underrated SDGs from a business profitability point of view. But these are very essential, because the point that was made by Mr. Sharma of providing women, 50% women working on the floors, it is an indication of how things are changing and diversity is becoming the focal point. How critical is it to speak about this for an inclusive development?
Very, very critical, Maria, and thank you for raising that question. Women are the agents of change, and they are the torch bearers for social, economic, and environmental transformation for the new India. I mean, researchers show that women are more likely than men to invest a large proportion of their household income in the education and well being of their children. And which is why it was all the more important for us to craft the Women's Entrepreneurship Project, which is a strategic initiative implemented by AB InBev India in geographies and for communities around its manufacturing operations in the country. And we are doing this in close coordination with National Skills Foundation of India as the NGO and implementation partner. We have already implemented this in Telangana, Haryana, and Karnataka, and the next phase of expansion is coming in Maharashtra and Uttar Pradesh. And what effectively this program entails is that we identify hyper-local viable traits that interest the region's population, and then we assess the profitability and economic potential, reach out to the communities, and then we start training the women entrepreneurs on skills which are technical. And after the training, we also put them through this fast-track entrepreneurship development program, which is conducted to accelerate the women's economic empowerment journey. And everything under the sun is help to train them around the business plans, how to pitch for funding, on the credit, and also skills such as marketing and PR skills. In Telangana alone, 103 women entrepreneurs have been incubated across 5 trades, such as tamarind food processing, goat rearing, flower cultivation, and pigment extraction, tailoring and embroidery, beautician services. And another 900 have been trained and are equipped with the necessary skills for employment in these trades.
Yes, and more power to you for those efforts. Certainly, anywhere there is scope for women to grow, I'm all for it. So, Tanvi Rohatgi, hats off. Let me bring in Mr. Khosla. Mr. Khosla, you are in a business which is very, very price sensitive, but at the same time, there's lots of scope for innovation on the sustainability and carbon footprint front. How do you balance the two?
We are very happy to be in a business which is quite price sensitive. To be very honest, what happens is when you talk about this type of innovation on a sustainability or a creativity in a sustainability or some few steps in a sustainability development or on the environment, sometimes it is a voluntarily, sometimes it's a compulsion. We being in a very price sensitive market, we are being pushed in a compulsion part of the business. And when there is a compulsion, there is a lot of pressure, there is a lot of force which goes behind to move fast in that direction. So what has happened is because of the price sensitivity and what we exactly have seen during a time of pandemic and after that because of the commodity increase in prices, geopolitical situation. So there has been a lot of increase in the cost of raw material, cost on the fuel, cost on availability. So many things have happened in that case. So we have been forced to look forward. Say, for example, like one thing, in our plant in Telangana, in Bongir, which is around 100 kilometers from Hyderabad, we are creating a solar power of close to 18 megawatt. In the peak of the day, we are 100% using all the solar power. We are not using anything from the grid. So this number, we have put up everything on the roof, and along with that, there is a solar park in the campus. So these things, they push us to a level because we have to reduce the cost and we have to make sure that we are sustainable and everything. Secondly, very important is who is your customer base. Our customer base are very important. Multinational companies, they are all based in Europe or USA or everywhere. They have a lot of pressure on us on the sustainability. They have a lot of pressure on us on ESG, on environment. And in turn, to satisfy their minimum requirement, we have to outperform on those levels there. And today, very proudly and honestly, arrogantly, I can say like that, we feel that we have been working so well on these parameters, and we are one of the most preferred company to these customers.
Let me go back to Jayesh Ranjan and give him the final words here. Mr. Ranjan, we have talked about various incubation and eco-friendly system. Let's talk about the scalability, which becomes important. Yes, government becomes the first customer, but how do you ensure scalability of these startups?
So different interventions are required really, while government becoming the first customer itself gives them a big boost, because when government becomes the first customer, we typically don't just stop with giving them a small pilot or a proof of concept, but if that works well, we encourage them to spread it throughout the state. And while ours is a new state, it still is a relatively large state. We also assess the startups in different ways. So, for example, these days, access to government data itself is a very vital piece of requirement, because lots of, let us say, if you are a tech startup, you are working in artificial intelligence, you need to perfect your algorithm, and therefore you require access to humongous amounts of data, which only the government has. So giving easy access to government, voluminous government data, helping them with proper guidance, mentorship, also recommending a solution. Suppose, so I have personally done it on multiple occasions. If some solution has worked well, and if the startup has told us that they see similar opportunities in a few other states also, which also have similar challenges and problems, I have never stopped shy of sending a recommendation letter recommending this particular startup from Telangana. And I know that on some occasions, they have actually been able to spread their wings to other geographies in our country as well. So scaling up is important. And as my colleague, Mr. Srinivas Rao pointed out, helping them with funding, because one very critical requirement to do something which you are doing at an X level and bring it to, let us say, 5X or 10X is also that you require to build a bigger team, you require bigger access to capital, and so on and so forth. So we do provide the help in every possible way. Once we know that the startup has something of relevance to us, it is targeting an important SDG, the community at large, the society at large will benefit from it, we really back it till the very end.
And what is the response that you get from other states? Because Telangana may be going all out, but what about other states? Because that's very crucial for last mile scalability. Even if you give a recommendation, what is the response like?
No, so I mean, it's a nice coincidence that you asked this question, because whatever we do whatever we have been doing in Telangana is now getting noticed at a national level as well. And today is we are speaking today, exactly a week from today. Representatives from 15 states are coming to Telangana. They are being brought here by Startup India to learn from our good practices, to see how we have created institutions, how we have brought talent from the open market to work those institutions, how supportive and business friendly our startup policy is, and so on and so forth. So to be able to showcase our approach over the last 8 years to 15 states in one go is, in my opinion, a very big testimony to the fact that things are going well in our state.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's a huge thumbs up to all that is being done by Telangana and all of you, Mr. Jayesh Ranjan. Mr. Rao, talking about the mindsets, the business model, and also disruptive technologies, a phrase which is often used now.
Yeah. So I think clearly one of the challenges for early stage entrepreneurs, right, is it is a challenging, tough journey, and being able to stay the course, being able to navigate through ups and downs. So what we try and do is we create communities of interest. So for example, in sustainability, in the EV space, for example, in startups in the climate change space, etc., we create communities of interest. We bring in role models, people who've been there, done that, and support them. Act as sounding boards. In many cases, as Jayesh Garu has repeatedly emphasized, mentorship is a very, very critical component. So we bring in the ecosystem. We bring in corporate leaders, for example, from large companies who can actually work with the startups, help them refine their business models, tweak them, and make sure that they can the journey forward becomes a lot more smoother, right, and can learn from shared experiences and so on.
So Jayesh sir, essentially it is about the state becoming the guardian, a mentor, because it understands the long journey it takes, and at the same time you set examples, ensure mindsets change, and then give that ecosystem which is very different and distinct.
See, Maria, all that is perfectly correct, but a very fundamental issue is that why is the state interested in promoting innovation, promoting entrepreneurship, embracing startups? And that is something very, in my opinion, very distinctive about Telangana. I mean, there are other states as well where lots of entrepreneurship is happening, innovation is happening, but we have not heard any great intervention which the state has consciously made to create that ecosystem. In many states, again, I don't want to run down any state, but we know of many other states where it has all happened organically. I mean, state has kind of not come in the way, which itself is a big thing. But most of the places it has happened organically. But the difference here is in Telangana that we have really fostered that creation of that ecosystem. And the fundamental reason, as I said, is that because the state has believed right from day one, since the last 8 years, that lots of technology, lots of path-breaking reforms, which the world is seeing today, comes from the world of startups, and we should also encourage them so that much of that benefit comes to our state, our people. And therefore, the very DNA of Telangana is that it should become innovation friendly, entrepreneurship friendly, because it will benefit the people in the long run.
Yes, let's end the discussion on that DNA of Telangana that Jayesh Ranjan spoke about. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Srinivas Rao, Jayesh Ranjan, Kamlesh Kumar Sharma, Rajesh Khosla, and also Tanvi Rohadgi. With that, it's a wrap from me. There will be a special feature on Sustainability 100 Plus Awards, so stay tuned.
Welcome back to the Sustainability 100 Plus platform, and I'm Ruchira Sharma. As you all know, we have been gearing up for the Sustainability 100 Plus Awards to be conducted at the end of the year. The Sustainability 100 Plus Awards are a natural extension of AB InBev and Network 18's Sustainability 100 Plus journey that began in the year 2021. And the awards will celebrate the best of the best in sustainability. In fact, the entries have already begun coming in and will be evaluated and vetted by our knowledge partner, Futurescape, for the esteemed jury members. But moving on to the current topic, over the years, social entrepreneurship has grown significantly. It plays a pivotal role in triggering social change and attaining sustainable development. Social entrepreneurs are considered very critical change agents who can deploy entrepreneurial skills to provide solutions to important social and environmental problems. And today, to learn how social entrepreneurs are playing a very important role in mitigating last-mile sustainability challenges, I am joined by two very special guests. And in fact, one of them is a jury member also. So on that note, let me introduce our guests for today. We have with us Ms. Seema Arora, CII, and Mr. Bratton Roy, AB InBev, India. So I'd like to begin with you, Ms. Seema. The first question is that it is estimated that businesses are partnering with and supporting social entrepreneurs, and these could have a very positive impact on the lives of nearly 1 billion people around the world. So could you tell us a little about how CII is particularly viewing this opportunity?
Thank you, Ruchira. I think social entrepreneurship has become a tremendous opportunity. It's an opportunity of not just changing lives, but impacting the economy in a big way. And especially today, as we witness a major push towards promoting and encouraging entrepreneurship movement in our country, both at the policy level and in action, we can see a lot of programs and schemes like the Make in India, Startup India, etc. And SEBI also recently notified the Social Stock Exchange Framework. So there is a huge opportunity. And at the same time, we are seeing growing high net worth individuals in the country who are willing to and looking to invest their money, philanthropic money, in forms of grants and impact investments. What we also see is that the social entrepreneurship movement is seeing ideas that are taking root not just in large cities, but in smaller towns and rural areas as well. And entrepreneurs are working in multiple areas. For example, working in introducing sustainable farming that helps conserve resources through organic products, use of various kinds of vermicomposting, water ATMs, bicycle sharing apps. So there's so many areas that social entrepreneurs are working towards making impact and changing the society. CII has been leading this mission of leveraging business acumen with social objectives by encouraging companies to incorporate and practice social responsibility across all dimensions. The CII Foundation, a trust set up by CII, helps enterprises to deepen their engagement with society in areas such as natural resource management, women empowerment, serving people with disabilities, disaster management, amongst others. We also have a special program for grassroots women social leaders and entrepreneurs who are identified through a rigorous due diligence process, and we work with them in building capacities, mentoring, providing them access to markets, networking with larger businesses. And just as a number today, this network has almost 100 plus women leaders providing solutions on health, education, and impacting livelihoods of over 12 lakh women in the rural setup. So this is what CII has taken steps, please.
Great. Thank you for sharing that whole journey that CII has been making. But moving on to my next question, knowledge and skill sharing are some of the foremost ways for large businesses to actually get involved in the entire, social innovation sector. So how is CII particularly incentivizing or advocating businesses to look at these serious, and treat this as a serious business opportunity rather than just a CSR perspective?
Yeah, firstly, my compliments for bringing this up, that social innovation needs to be seen beyond the CSR lens. And we can see that now many companies have been engaging with social enterprises, NGOs, and sharing their skills, as you rightly said, their know-how, and also helping create better management processes, systems. So far, most of this is done through the system of volunteering. And CII, for example, has a special initiative under its India at 75 mission, and has developed a national volunteering grid that works as a self-sustaining ecosystem. It connects non-profits, community organizations to volunteers from businesses, and it especially encourages professionals to volunteer skills and help build organizational capacity in non-profits.
But Ms. Seema, female entrepreneurs, which you earlier spoke about, are also making their mark in each and every field. So do you feel that empowering female social entrepreneurs is actually the key to economic recovery, and what kind of policy interventions are required with this regard?
I think empowering half the population, which is women, is definitely the key, not just to the recovery, but also sustainable development and equitable progress. Women entrepreneurship is a key economic driver, and it should be encouraged, as women really provide an opportunity to create a work ecosystem that is best suited to them, while at the same time contribute to the economic growth. So in my opinion, there are many such facets, such as knowledge, skilling, etc., then can be worked upon. Innovative ways of creating market spaces as well as access to finance opportunity is the key area where we need to work to support the women entrepreneurs.
coming to my last question, does social innovation also in a way promote more cross-border cooperation? Because after all, the problems that we face, even though they are complex and diverse in a country like India, they are also common to the entire planet and very global in nature. So what's your insight here?
Well, I think the global nature of the challenges that we face nowadays really provides us an opportunity, and really provides an opportunity for a common agenda to collaborate, build on the knowledge and the experience of each other. But we all know that cooperation does not stem automatically from the existence of a common problem, right? So we have to have spaces and platforms which have to be created so that we can collaborate. There are various platforms which exist and push for knowledge exchange, and something on top of my mind is really the G20, as India will be, taking the presidency of G20. CII is also the B20 counterpart, and we know that some common agendas do move through countries, and this kind of a platform provides the opportunities. So I think the cross-border cooperation to really thrive, there is a need not just of the commonality of the challenge, but also there has to be an agreement on business priority and policy priority.
Definitely, definitely. And hopefully India will make a great headway in this regard. Thank you so much, Ms. Seema Arora, for joining us today and sharing your insights with us. Definitely, as you said, we all need to come together and join hands to continue to do our bit towards building a more sustainable and equitable future. So, Mr. Bratton, thank you for joining us today. Could you tell us a little bit more about AB InBev and how it has really gone about leveraging local partnerships for advancing the sustainability agenda that you're so keenly following? And I believe there are some really interesting stories that you could share with us.
Sure, absolutely, yes. Thank you. I think we have been working with a lot of partners, throughout our journey here in India across, different projects that we work in, and especially in sustainability. I think any social entrepreneurship work that any corporate does is incomplete without public, private, and NGO partnership, and that's key to any model that you want to scale. And we work with a lot of NGOs and partners across the value chain, and very interesting examples that I can possibly share that with you. For example, we work with Cropin, which is a satellite based crop operation monitoring module in our agro program. And this model is very unique and enables mapping of on-field operations like irrigation, fertilizer application digitally. So we use Cropin and work very closely with the farmers as well. We have also worked with a lot of startups, like, for example, Craftstate, to develop a paper from agro waste that is essentially tree-free paper. We have worked with startups like Arthos, which is in the process of developing a biodegradable plastic substitute, which is equally important. But in our logistics supply chain footprint, we also work with startups like FreightFox, which is developing a live carbon emission tracking module for our logistics program. So this is one of a kind solution that allows us to manage operations with real-time visibility on the environmental impact. So I think without working with startups who are at the heart of innovation across our value chain, this particular journey is incomplete. And any social innovation program that we run throughout our sustainability value chain, we seek startups that are working in each of these work streams and accordingly collaborate to come up with the best possible solution.
Well, business owners who really aim to stand out in the social sector have to develop and deploy very novel approaches to addressing broad critical issues. So could you tell us a little bit more about how do you approach this and how are you giving back to the communities that you're working with? Does profitability ever come in the way of some of the welfare work that you're doing with the communities?
Yeah. While I think sustainability and community empowerment should be part of is part of the business in a big way, but I think profitability and the community empowerment work or the social innovation work that we are doing should be looked at separately. Profitability never comes in the way when we undertake any initiatives across our community. We do a lot of community initiatives, Ruchira, which is around rural economy, working with farmers, daily wage earners, social entrepreneurs. If I can give you an example, we have, come up with this initiative that we have been doing in the last, 2 years around women entrepreneurship, which is a strategic initiative that we have come up across different geographies for communities around our manufacturing operation. We are doing this in India in close coordination with our partner, which is National Skills Foundation of India, an NGO and an implementation partner that we work with extensively. Currently, it is up and running in Telangana and made significant headway. But we are also taking this program and scaling it further in Haryana and Karnataka. And when we work in this women entrepreneurship project, what we do is we do a lot of counseling, a lot of understanding on what are the community needs, in the community where we live and work, which is largely near to our breweries. What are the women in that locality wanting to undertake work on? What are the program that hyperlocal program, the trades that interest this particular population? So we do an extensive study by third party experts, and the profitability and economic potential of these trades are then made aware to communities, so that while your interest can lie in any of the trade, but does this actually make an impact in the region where you live, or will that generate economic empowerment for you as an individual? And there are many small trades, which is like goat rearing or stitching or upskilling or embroidery work, that they engage with. And we bring the entire community program together. We give them a lot of technical skills. Post training, there is a fast track entrepreneurship development program that we conduct to accelerate their empowerment, economic empowerment journey, and then bring them together and also fund this for them. And obviously, they are self-independent as we move forward.
Well, AB InBev is also very passionate about the Sustainability 100 Plus Awards, and you have been involved in the entire campaign right since the beginning. So, could you tell us a little about the journey so far? And 4 categories for the awards are based on the 4 pillars of the campaign, namely climate action, water stewardship, circular packaging, and smart agriculture. So, how do you envisage the role of innovation and entrepreneurship in tying all these 4 pillars together?
Sure. I think it's very, very lucky to be a part of this program for the second year running, and very happy to be associated with Sustainability 100 Plus in collaboration with Network 18. I think it's a great platform for knowledge sharing, and we want to work across key 4 sustainability development goals across agriculture, water stewardship, climate action, and circular packaging. Innovation and I think social entrepreneurship is very, very integral to the awards program. We want to really go out there and see who are these startups who are doing exceptional work across each of these work streams.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Bratton and Ms. Seema, for this very insightful discussion. As you all mentioned, we need to come together and join hands and continue to do our bit towards building a more equitable and sustainable future. So thank you so much for joining in today, and thank you to our audience for watching.
Hello and welcome to the Season 2 of Sustainability 100 Plus Masterclasses. We are back with yet another session to educate you all on a buzzing topic, ESG investing, how it makes a financial sense for business. And to talk on the subject, we have an innovative leader in the domain, Astha Sharma, Director of Finance for India and Southeast Asia, CFO India, AB InBev. Astha is a seasoned business finance professional with experience in leading manufacturing industries. She is strategic planner and business partner focused on protecting companies' revenue, profit objectives, and achieve financial control along with sustainable business growth. Welcome, Astha.
Thank you, Sugandha.
We are super excited to dig deeper into the topic today with Astha. Without further ado, let's start with our session. So, Astha, our very first question is, what is ESG investing?
Yeah, so broadly, in broad terms, ESG investing is using environmental, social, and governance factors to evaluate companies and countries on how advanced are they with sustainability. It's basically considering all those factors is when investors get a more holistic view of the companies they back, and which can help them mitigate the risks and opportunities and identify further. I'm sorry, I just.
No problem. You can take it from the top also, that's okay.
Thanks, Sugandha. So ESG investing broadly means using environmental, social, and governance factors to evaluate companies and countries on how far advanced they are with sustainability. By considering ESG factors, investors practically get a holistic view of the companies they back, which can help mitigate the risks and identify more opportunities. ESG investing is widely seen as a way of investing sustainably, where investments are made with consideration of environment, human well-being, and as well as economy. It is based on the growing assumption that financial performance of organizations is increasingly affected by environmental and social factors. Market disruption and uncertainty caused by pandemic in 2020 led many investors to turn to ESG funds for increased resiliency. In fact, the first 3 months of 2020 saw $45.6 billion USD flow into these funds globally. $30.7 trillion currently sits in sustainable investment funds worldwide, and it is predicted that it could rise to around 50 trillion in the next 2 decades.
Okay. So I think since you have thrown some light on what ESG investing is all about, let's try and understand what are the ESG risks faced by a business.
So if I were to start with, let's start with the E. The E is about the way a company impacts and interacts with its natural capital, which includes the physical risks such as biodiversity loss, increased risks of flood, and extreme weather events. When looking at this E, investors also face the transition risks, which could be risks related to transition to a low carbon economy. Moving on to the S in that ESG is about the way a company affects its various stakeholders groups. It could be either external or internal, like employees, suppliers, contractors, consumers, and others. So negative social impacts can occur through direct operations and value chains. The S is typically including the risk of infringing of human rights of stakeholders, like for instance, limiting workers' freedom of association would result in a direct negative impact on workers' rights. And other examples could include discriminating based on gender or ethnicity when hiring or promoting employees, failing to monitor whether suppliers or contractors are paying a living wage to their workers, etc. The last part of that ESG, being G, relates to the 2 core components, corporate governance and business integrity. The first can really be seen as a way a company governs itself through policies, processes, and controls to achieve compliance and secure that transparency in its dealings. Business integrity, on the other hand, is about a way a company steers clear of corruption and bribery, avoiding openly engaging with politically exposed persons, which may pose a reputational risk to the company's brand.
Thank you so much, Astha. Like you have detailed out so beautifully about the risk faced by a business. What are the ESG criteria that are looked by investing firms usually?
So I can cover a brief examples around the factors of ESG being environment, social, and governance. The first one within environment could be publishing a carbon or a sustainability report, limiting harmful pollutants and chemicals, seeking lower greenhouse and gas emissions, and use of local renewable energy resources. In case of social, it would be operating with an ethical supply chain, having policies to protect against sexual misconduct, supporting LGBTQ+ rights and encouraging diversity, and having a fair pay wages. In terms of governance, it would be embracing diversity on board of directors, embracing corporate transparency, and having someone other than the CEO as the chair of the board.
And lastly, coming on to our final set of questions, what are the benefits to the investee from focusing on ESG criteria?
I mean, there are a number of benefits, but just to list a few, ESG investments may help a company deliver outperformance in the market. It has the potential to help the environment and help solve climatic changes. Understanding and managing a portfolio risks with strong governance and ethical companies could be one of them. And I think with this, there is increased consumer visibility and loyalty and transparency towards our operations. And it's just another way of giving back to the community and promoting the social responsibility.
Thank you so much, Astha, for sharing with us the insights on ESG investing. It was really a wonderful session and an insightful one too. I hope our audience enjoy it, and we'll come back soon with another masterclass session. Thank you.
Thank you, Sugandha.